You dropped out of school at 15. You went on to become a university lecturer, TEDx speaker, Guinness World Record holder. One skill that changed the trajectory of your life?
I think it would be pain. We're always driven by either avoiding pain or accumulating pleasure. In order to achieve anything substantial, you've got to get out of your comfort zone. They have been born into a very chaotic world. These young people are going to change their career 20 to 30 times in their life. I think the skill that would separate people 20 years from now is confidence.
You dropped out of school at 15. You went on to become a university lecturer, TEDx speaker, Guinness World Record holder, one of the most influential South Africans in 2019, and a founder of multiple youth friends. If you had to isolate sort of just like one skill that changed the trajectory of your life, what was it and how did you develop it without that traditional path?
I think it would be pain, to be honest. I'm really good at pain, or I'm actually really not good at pain. I find the avoiding of it a highly motivational force. And I, like many other people, have been through a lot of pain in my life, different aspects, different areas. And avoiding that has motivated me to take steps in different directions in order to avoid pain and accumulate pleasure. We're always driven by either avoiding pain or accumulating pleasure. And I think once you understand which is more motivating, the avoidance of pain, it gives you a bit of tenacity and a bit of grit to run forward, you know. And then I have got the good old concept of YOLO, right? Or YODO. You only die once, you only live once. So I think a combination of those two things are what drives me.
Okay, so avoiding pain, like obviously some people experience a lot of pain early on in their youth and as they grow up. Some have less of it. How did it change you?
How did it change me avoiding pain? I'm an only child, so I grew up just with my mum, my dad in Cape Town, South Africa. That's that accent you can hear. We never had any kind of financial security or support. So I grew up in what was known as kind of a poor household. And I started working, if you would, and earning money at a very young age. And even then I found that I was spending my money like pre-10 years old in helping support the family and pay rent. So the avoiding of that, and by the time I was kind of cognizant at like 13, 14, I realized that I didn't want to be in that situation at all, because you will know, as many other people will know, if you've got a financial pain element on you, it kind of blurs everything else out. That is the main goal, is like, get out of this financial problem that you're in. And I think I learned how to do that at a very young age. That avoiding of that is what's kept me going.
A lot of people, like myself included, like I didn't have a very painful childhood. Like it just wasn't that painful. I had a middle class family, was raised very nicely. I even went to a private school. How do I develop that same ability that you have without having that same level of pain? Like what would you advise a young person to do if they don't have that?
Yeah, great question. Really great question. How would I advise someone to kind of find that motivational force of avoiding pain without going through the pain? Well, there's different ways about that, George. I mean, like, firstly, we always say that you need to get out of your comfort zone, right? In order to achieve anything substantial, you've got to get out of your comfort zone. And by getting out of your comfort zone, you're usually putting yourself in an element of pain, right? If we know that we want to get extremely fit, lose some weight and gain some muscle, it sounds easy. It sounds simple. It is simple. How do you lose weight? You burn more calories than you consume. Is it easy? No. But what makes it easy is putting yourself in an environment. Maybe you go to gym. You surround yourself with a like-minded group of people that are looking to do the same kind of thing. You get a personal trainer and you put yourself through that pain in order to get some kind of success. So the last thing I'm saying is go and put yourself in pain, but getting outside of a comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. And if I'm being completely honest, I find that a lot of young people nowadays and families in general are very comfortable in their comfort zones. And that's fine. That's completely fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But if we want to get to pleasure, we need to understand where the element of pain is. And when we touch those pain points, the moving up into pleasure becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, pain is it's critical, and I think, like you said, you can almost self-induce it a little bit as a young person by stepping out your comfort zone. You want to avoid those things more and more, and that gives you that trajectory to continue to avoid pain and then grow. What do you think are some of like the main pains that young people are trying to avoid now, like in today's era?
Great question. What are the pains that young people are trying to avoid now? I must be honest, this generation that we're looking at right now, right, X and Alpha, they have been born into a very chaotic world. Right? I mean, we've got, like, I don't want to say it, but World War III on the brink. We've got AI. COVID and lockdown was just completely normal. Leadership changes, economic failure, cost of living crisis. They were born into this, to a sense. So trying to put them into an element of pain is actually quite tricky, to be completely honest, right? Because they're so used to the pain and the chaos that it's comforting. And what that causes is it doesn't allow for, like what my generation went through was a little bit of rebellion, right? This isn't rebellion. This isn't laziness. This isn't even confusion. There's an element of comfort in all of it. So for this generation now, I think it's understanding that in order to be successful, be that through wealth, health, happiness, or success, right? That prosperity, those four combinations of prosperity. I think that a lot of young people now are moving outside of traditional methods and are finding that being authentic allows them to live these lives of authenticity. And by being authentic, one needs to take a good hard look at oneself, and therefore one usually looks in the mirror and usually sees a little bit of pain. Sorry for the really long, convoluted answer, but there is a method to that madness, I promise.
Non-traditional methods, I think, is like the thing there that's interesting because, of course, you left school at 15. Not a lot of young people do that now, and it's pretty rare. That's obviously pretty non-traditional. How did that come about? Why did you leave school at 15, and what did you gain from that?
Three questions in that one. Why did I leave school at 15? Twofold. Number one, I was going to be a professional surfer. I was earmarked to be I was a really good athlete, a surfer. My father comes from the surfing world. So when I was 13 years old, I was being paid to surf and I was traveling around. And my life trajectory, as I'm sure many young people can relate, specifically here in the UK, was that I was going to be an athlete. I was going to make it to the top 1% and I was going to get paid to travel the world and surf. So I managed to convince my parents that I no longer needed to be in school and I should focus all my time and attention on my athletic ability and surfing. Number two, because I had like two jobs going at the same time, I was making more money than most of my teachers were at that age. And I'm not being arrogant in it, I'm being factual in it. So I managed to convince my parents that was me. I'm making money, I'm supporting myself, I'm 15. What else is there possibly to learn in the whole world that I don't already know, right? Like every 15-year-old feels. And I'm going to be an athlete. That didn't work out as well as I thought it would. Right, when I was 17, I broke both my knees and my spine. So my professional athletic career kind of disappeared in the blink of an eye. So that's why I dropped out. I just didn't at the time realize that I'd spend the majority of my professional career dealing with headmasters and lecturing at universities like 25 years later. I didn't see that coming, I must be honest.
How did that even like evolve into being that? Because it's just, you leave that system so soon, obviously fully dedicated to surfing and going down that athlete lifestyle. Uh, how do you go from that to then working in the education space, trying to help young people out?
Again, great question. I wanted to help young people out because, and this actually leads back to the question earlier about why I dropped out of school at 15. I was, like many 15-year-olds are, you think you know everything that's going on in the world. You're a little bit arrogant. You're full of confidence. You're ready to go. Your hormones are going. Someone says, listen, I'm going to pay you to surf the world and travel. And these endorphins go off and you're like, I can see my future. I'm going to nail this. And then something happens in your life that causes you pain, going back to question number one, and that changes things around. When I was 18 years old and I learned to walk again, right, I moved over to the UK and I was an unskilled person. So I've tried my hand at just about every job that you can imagine in the UK. And I don't mean that arrogantly. Like, I have done door-to-door sales. I've been a glass collector, a street sweeper. I've done 3 clinical trials. Like, you name it. I've been down these different paths. And I think the fact that I dropped out of school when I was 15 cost me about 10 years of my life, only to find out at about 30 years old, what I really enjoyed. And that took me back into the world of coaching and working with young people. So as I say, I'm one of those people that literally dropped out of school and looked at it 10 years later and go like, I completely regret that. And I blame my parents for it as well. I was like, how could you let me drop out of school at 15? Like, are you mad? How did you not see this happening? Looking backwards, easy to understand it. Looking forward, I didn't know that it would lead me into a career of education.
Something's really interesting in that, though, is that like you had this 10-year period of wondering, what do? I got to try all these different things. I got to figure it out. I feel like from looking at it from my perspective, I feel like every young person is having to do that again now because they are going through a schooling system that doesn't prepare them necessarily well for the world that they get into. So during that like fooling around, figuring out what it is period, if a young person's in that now, what kind of like guidance do you have for them from your journey and what you did during that phase?
In a nutshell, this is exactly why we started Earniversity. Right? It's exactly why we started Earniversity for young people that are going through the education system now, which, key note there, it's 110 years old, this education system. Right? It was developed in the industrial age to give the world what it demanded. And back then it demanded office and factory workers. And then it started looking for lawyers and doctors and accountants and technicians in the professional world. And it's only just catching up now to what we demanded in the 90s. So I found that young people nowadays are getting to the age of 13, 14, 15, and they keep getting asked this question, George, and the question hasn't changed in 100 years, and that is, what are you going to do when you finish school? Back in my day, we would go like, oh, I know what I want to do, because you'd normally get into a career and you'd probably stick there for 20, 30 years. You might change your career twice in your life. Mm-hmm. The average adult nowadays will change their career 5 times in their life. Not their job, their career, okay? These young people are going to change their career 20 to 30 times in their life. Not because they're so used to change, but because the world is going to be changing so quickly that they might get into, I don't know, car mechanics, and in 5 years' time, the world doesn't exist, or that doesn't work. That industry doesn't exist. So they need to get into data manufacturing. Then AI comes into, and they need to get into something else and something else. So for young people right now, I think it's confusing. It's probably a little bit nerve-wracking, but at the same time, they've been born into it. So they know what to expect. And I think the biggest expectation out of all of this is just change. Change. There's going to be more and more and more and more change as we go forward. And to the younger generation out there now that are looking for to answer that question, what are you going to do when you finish school? I think the right answer is, I have no idea, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and adapt and overcome and change, getting great at all those things and comfortable with that and avoiding pain, it all loops together pretty nicely in a compact way. And of course, part of the reason that, you mentioned it there, you started at Earniversity, this youth mission to help young people earn money, gain the skills that they need. What do you think are the gaps within the current traditional system that Earniversity is trying to solve?
Great question again. So the gaps that we're trying to solve through Earniversity are, there are a couple. Number one is that if you look at it, the reason that we actually go to school, okay, all of us, is in order to prep ourselves for college. College then preps us for university or apprenticeship or internship, which ultimately preps us for the working world. So once we get into the working world, there's usually two reasons that we get into the working world. Number one, you contribute towards society, you solve problems and or you add value to society. And number two, you get paid for that. You get rewarded for your input. The more skilled you are, the more valuable your time is. So if you're sweeping streets in Uxbridge, like I did, or packing shelves, your time is valued at £12.50 an hour. If you're a brain surgeon, your time is valued at £1,250 an hour, right? So we go through the education system, no matter how you look at it, in order to learn how to contribute towards society. And the more you contribute towards society, the more you get paid for it. Ipso facto, we go to school to learn how to earn. But they do it in a very long, convoluted way. So the idea behind Earniversity is teach young people modern money earning skills while they're young so that they can decide how to use them and make them transferable. Second reason that we do it is also we look a lot at AI and how quickly the world is changing. And the traditional education system, George, it's not even at snail pace. Like it's slower than that. And it's not going to catch up anytime soon. So we have to have an alternative layer of education. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not school bashing here. The traditional education system has got the basics right. It teaches us how to read, teaches us how to write, how to comprehend information. It doesn't really teach us what to do with that information, though. And it certainly doesn't look at things like AI and money earning skills. So it's not, as you said earlier, it doesn't really prepare young people for the world that they're entering into now. Earniversity is kind of that layer. We're not there to replace traditional education. We're there to top them up on the skills that traditional education misses. And so it's like they leave school with a toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
The toolbox that they leave with is, the tools are a bit broken and a bit bent. There's a couple of tools missing. It's old and rusty. The toolbox that they need is like the supersonic, super duper toolbox, and it changes frequently. So it's about just keeping the education updated, engaging, rewarding, and fun.
Yeah, I think the toolbox analogy is really interesting. Like, these skills are always going to change. I guess with that analogy, what are some of the tools that you always want to have in the box that aren't necessarily going to change but will help you with the change?
Great question. Again, loving your questions. Yeah, as I said, like we've got to understand numeracy. We've got to understand literacy. Great to have some geography in there, some biology, some science, understanding where we're from. History helps us out with trajectory and moving forward, of course. But it doesn't talk about things like money, right? We go through the entire education system to learn how to contribute to society and therefore be paid so that we can live the lives that we want to live. Live wonderful lives, travel the world. I mean, where are you right now? Bali, right? And it doesn't quite equip us for that. There are talks now about education reform. In 2030, we're going to be talking about budgeting and mortgages for some reason in the national curriculum, which is fantastic, but it doesn't quite. Why mortgages? What about how to earn? Because there are a lot of programs out there, usually sponsored by a bank, which teach young people how to save and how to invest. It's great. But in order to save money or in order to invest money, they need money, right? They need to know how to earn this money. Otherwise, mom and dad become a bank. So that's what Earniversity does. We coach young people on how to earn money so that they can in the future save and invest and spend ultimately.
Young person earns money. What difference does that make to them? Like, I don't know, because I think it's a big step, right? Like, you make your first little bit of money, maybe it's online or it's in person. How does that help their trajectory? Like, what difference have you seen that make to young people?
So we see it all the time. The fact that what it does is it changes a mindset. It builds a lot of confidence and it grows ambition. All right. When a young person starts earning money at the age of, I don't know, 13, 14, 15, 16, straight away, when we see it all the time in university, this like, I can do this attitude comes about. It's like, whoa, just made 60 quid selling something online. Okay. And you can see them kind of like, what else can I sell? What else can I do? Okay, let's learn a bit about freelancing. Video editing. Oh, there's £250 from a client. Whoa. That wasn't as difficult as I thought. Okay, let me try affiliate marketing. That one didn't work for me. Content. And it opens up options. It's like neuro pathways are busy being built. Well, these young people go like, okay, I'm feeling more confident in myself now because out of all the problems that I see my parents facing, out of all the problems that I see the government, the world, leadership, cost of living, like all of these issues, I'm sitting there now going that finances, that's not going to be one of my problems. And that is a comfort level. So you are dead right in saying a young person earning some money while they're a teenager, does it make a difference? No, not really. But what it does to the trajectory of their life, understanding that that's not really going to be an issue for me. That's the magic spot right there. Financial confidence comes in and straight away, literally like shoulders go back, chest goes out, chin goes up. I got this. I got this part, Then we need to layer on, personal and mental health and things like that. But once they are financially confident, the I can do this attitude comes about, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, I totally see it. And by the way, is this like, if I want to just go get a job working at the pub or washing dishes, is this the same thing that you guys think about helping, or is it more like those online stuff that's going to be more future proof, if that makes sense?
I think I think that all young people should get a job. Definitely. It's something that we promote highly, right? When you leave school, you've got 4 options available to you. Number 1, you can get a job, internship, apprenticeship. Number 2, you can study further, either go down to Coursera or university. Number 3, you can take a gap year if mom and or dad funds it. And number 4, you can start your own business. Now, in those 4 options, the best thing to do is definitely study further and get some more knowledge and information, because the world's changing so quickly that we need knowledge and information just to keep up, right? Mm-hmm. The best thing you can do is go and get a job. So you've got some money coming in, there's financial independence, support, you're feeling comfortable. The best thing you can do is start your own business and have a side hustle. And once you've done all 3 of those things, the best thing you can do is take a gap year and go and explore the world, right? So when I was younger, you'd leave school and you'd have to choose one of those 4 things. Right now, the most successful people that are out there are doing all 4 of them. So I definitely think that leaving school and going and getting a job at McDonald's, at the pub, learning to fail, dealing with people, solving problems, communication skills, being on time, all those responsibilities are absolutely critical, George, to a young person's development. That is that avoiding pain level. There's a responsibility there. But once they do that, they're fully aware that they're not going to become financially stable off of just having that. They need probably a second stream of income and maybe a passion project that can deliver more profit in it. And once that's happening, study a little bit further, get some more information, etc. So as I said, there's a lot expected of young people at the moment. But do I think that they shouldn't go and get a job and or work at McDonald's? No, quite the opposite. I think they should definitely do that. But it's not going to make them wealthy.
I think you touched on it briefly earlier, like the concept of ambition and how important that is for all of this. When I look back at me at 15 years old, if my parents weren't kicking me out the house, I never would have gone and got on a job, I didn't have that ambition or drive. For me, that didn't really come until I was like 19 and realized that university wasn't going to give me everything I needed, and I had to figure out a way to make money so that I didn't have to apply for a grad job that I wouldn't enjoy. And so that's like the pain thing that drove me. But when I look back at younger me, I didn't have ambition. Like, do you think ambition is this innate thing, or is it something that can be coached?
That's a really good question, I must say. Can ambition be coached? Do you know what? I think there is, either you are born with a certain amount of ambition, and I don't think it's born with. I think it comes from your surroundings. you see people struggling and you kind of go, I don't want that. I don't want that. And there's that burning desire which creates that ambition to move forward. So I do think that there is an element, even though I don't want it to be true, I do think that there is an element of what surroundings you are being put into from a very young age can dictate a lot of how ambitious you are. But I mean, again, we do understand that ambition is laterally influenced. So what that means is that a lot of young people nowadays go to social media, of course they do, and they see people becoming extremely successful through non-conformative measures. Their parents talk that they need to be a doctor, accountant, lawyer, architect, go down a professionalism and a professional career and make money from that. But they see YouTubers getting paid this, or affiliate marketers getting paid that, and content creators, and they make it all easy, and they're all selling a course and blah, 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 blah. So it's lateral kind of influence there. And I think that does create a lot of ambition. I think there are a lot of young people, specifically in the UK, that look at their parents perhaps on benefits and then go on social media and look at their friends absolutely coining it. And they're like, I want that. Mm-hmm. I don't just want to take the easy way out. So to answer the question, are you born with ambition, or is it something that can be coached? I don't think it can be coached, but I do think like an unveiling of awareness can be shown to young people to go like, listen, do you want that? Or do you want that? And to get that, you're going to have to work your ass off. Happy? We good? Let's go.
Yeah, like seeing the pain. Like you need to really be able to see and understand what that might look like.
Seeing the pain. Yeah, great way of putting it. Seeing the pain can inspire some people. And don't get me wrong, there are other people that are like, listen, my parents have been on benefits. I'm going to be on benefits. Here we go. Bring on that life. I'm all over it. I think ambition is it's one of the world's most valuable, resources.
Yeah, cool. We've hopped around a lot here, but I think we've covered some really exciting stuff. And the final thing that I want to get into before we hit you with the final question is this idea of like authenticity. You mentioned it earlier about young people kind of being authentically themselves. I think this is really difficult, especially now. I always felt like I was brought up to be so agreeable and just inauthentic and just follow the rule book and the guide. How do I grow to be more authentic?
How do you grow to be more authentic? I think you need to understand, I think just in general, we need to understand a quite simple principle. And that is that in this day and age, if you are good at anything, I mean like anything, you can actually turn it into a career. And I think that allows for a large amount of authenticity if you kind of look at it, right? You look back at my generation, it was like, listen, you want to be successful financially, you're going to have to take one of these 12 or 16 different paths. That's what's going to allow for it. But nowadays, I mean, you can buy a camper van, drive around Europe, documenting your journey and presenting that, and you can get paid to do it. Hell, you could get paid to just fix up the camper van. You can create a YouTube channel that talks about omelets, and you can get paid a living for it. You can become an affiliate marketer and promote other people's products, and you can be. So I think the authenticity is such a valuable skill, and it's something that we had it pulled out of my generation. Literally, it was like like you going to the traditional education system where it's obedience, silence, stand in line, pull up your socks, tuck in your shirt, keep quiet, find the answers alone, loud sirens indicate movement. It's like it's not quite like that anymore. That's the industrial age of looking at everything. Nowadays, young people need to understand that by being authentic, that's a monetary skill. That is something that can actually determine an entire career around it. So just showing young people that authenticity is such a valuable commodity, it's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing.
I
Definitely.
think it's only going to grow. I mean, being authentic seems to be the core driver behind a lot of people's businesses now. It's like their personal brands up front. They're super authentic about their journey and what they're up to and where the business is at. People love it. They fall in love with the person. They buy the product. It seems to be where a lot of things move.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we've covered authenticity, ambition, a little bit of everything. If we fast forward, 20 years time, what skill do you think will separate young people who thrive versus those who struggle?
We fast forward 20 years from now, what's going to separate people to thrive from survive? I'm not going to say AI. It's not what it is. I don't
Top
know.
of mind for everyone, I feel like.
I'm all over that bandwagon, but it's not what I'm going to say right now. I think the skill that would separate people 20 years from now is confidence. Yeah, I think having confidence, owning your own space, being comfortable in decisions that you make, being able to make difficult decisions. I think with the way that the world is changing so rapidly, George, it's going to come down to the people that can be put in a situation, analyze the data around them, and make a decision. That is the skill. And the only way you're going to be able to make a decision is, number one, understand how to absorb content, right? Learn. And number two, be confident. Being totally confident in your abilities, your skills, owning your space, putting your foot down and going like, this is my decision. That, I believe, is the key skill for a quick and fast changing world.
Brilliant. I think it's awesome. I think it will last the test of time for sure.
We'll see.
And Dean, it's been awesome to have you on. I think, you've done a lot for the youth space in general, worldwide, starting in South Africa and now being obviously a huge part of this with your different companies in the UK. And I'm sure there's much more to come. If people want to learn more about you, follow what you're up to, get involved, what should they be looking out for? Where should they go?
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, George. It really has. Thank you so much for the time and focus on this. Earniversity.io. Pretty much everything's on there. We're actually pulling back a little bit from social media and the amount of time it takes to look after X and Twitter and Pinterest and TikTok and Facebook and blah, 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 all of that. You want any information? Earniversity.io. Everything's there, everything that we do. But otherwise, it's been a privilege. Thank you.